The Democratic Party is destroyed. They are now
Oh,
spending 20 million of our tax dollars to learn how to speak.
Electoral drubbing. The Democratic Party appears to still be in fact-finding mode. The New York Times reports that party donors and strategists have been gathering at luxury hotels to discuss how to win back working-class voters. And they're spending $20 million on an effort to try to figure out how to speak to young men. Quote, "It is codenamed SAM, short for Speaking with American Men, a strategic plan, and promises investment to study the syntax, language, and content that gains attention and virality in these spaces."
Party plan to avoid being swept in every battleground state again by spending $20 million to study how to speak to American men.
I read that they want to spend money to learn how to talk. That's fake. You don't want to be fake. You shouldn't have to hire consultants to.
As always, pop up in the middle.
Yeah, nah, listen, I want to grab the mic. I want to grab the mic
skip
before
that?
we even answer a question. Yeah, we should just skip it because
Then
I feel a little.
Hold on. Let me. I'll come to you right after the video.
Trump
I'll come to you right after the video.
Exactly right. If you have to
I'm
spend
already
$20 million
all right.
Oh. Actually, you know what? Actually, let's take a break. We'll play the rest of the video later. Let's bring it all back. All right. Cope has grabbed the mic, and then we're going to come to ML. Go ahead, Cope.
See, because for the longest time, you know, like everybody telling black men to be fucking vulnerable and stuff. And I'm speaking about black men because I am a black man. Other men probably have the other problem, but they also have their advocates. But people tell us to be vulnerable and then speak up and whatnot. And then, you know, we do that shit and then it kind of gets shut down. And then we actually see after all of the attacks because of the failures of the Democratic Party, they are literally spending $20 million in an attempt to try and garner votes. But what they're really saying to you is one, they have no idea how to speak to men. So there's absolutely no way possible, shape, or form that they ever gave a fuck about men in the first place in their campaign. Our vote was only due to entitlement because they said so, and that was it. And then for us to actually say that, we get vilified. We get called Republicans when we speak about the failures. And now they're literally sitting here telling me that they're going to spend $20 million to learn how to speak to men. Are we that fucked as a people? Because honestly, I'm about to finish my bachelor's in communications, and I need a piece of that.
I'm hurt. You know, 20 million is an insult. Like,
Hold on. Hey, K, before you go, let me let ML take the mic.
Man, I hate politics. I hate politicians. I hate them all on both sides. I think
100%.
Democrats they come across so inept and weak and stupid. And while I feel most of us as people, most decent people, you're not really too far left or too far right. We're somewhere in the middle. But again, internet, social media, everything is so exaggerated and extreme now. I think it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You guys spend $20 million to learn how to talk to men. Y'all talk for a living. You show up every 4 years and you talk your ass off to get people's votes, and then we don't hear from you for the rest of the time. It's nonsense. I want to do away with all of them. I'm not a proponent of the two-party system. I think we're given two choices, and it's kind of a lesser of two evil things for me most of the time. It's a headache, and it's one of the hardest things to talk about with people in general. And I think that's a big part. We can't have civil discussions. Everybody's either in an echo chamber or they're at each other's throats. You can't agree to disagree about shit.
I'm a man.
You know, and it's such a headache. But I think it's just sad and pathetic that, I mean, $20 million, give me $5 million and we can talk for about an hour. You know, there you go. And problem solved, Democrats. You know, you can do what you want with the other 15. Go find 4 other people to give $5 million to, and hey, we all good. Just what are we doing here? It's nonsense.
Yeah. AK, I'm gonna come to you next, but before I do, I just want to throw out a little bit of extra ammo here. So The most popular podcast in the world right now, no question, was Joe Rogan. And in my opinion, Joe Rogan was a big part in why Donald Trump won. Now, let's keep in mind, Joe Rogan endorsed Bernie Sanders back in the day before Hillary was pushed to the front of the ticket. They pushed him out. They called him a conspiracy theorist. They called him misogynistic, everything above the sun. That's number one. Number two, CNN, and I'll never forget this. The night before the last election, they ran a segment. It was an 8-minute segment. It was hosted by Dana Bash and a couple other people. It was called The New Masculinity. And they were talking about the Democrats and what masculinity looks like. Here's the problem with that. There were no men in that discussion. There were no men mentioned except for Cory Booker, who was mentioned the last 2 minutes of the segment. That's another thing. And then number three, you have people like AOC and other prominent Democrats who essentially look down on gamers as childish and immature, where this $20 million plan includes ads in video games and in YouTube spaces. They completely ignored the podcast circuit. They called it fake news. And Valuetainment, the PBD show, is now the second second watched news station in the United States. I think Fox News was number one, but you have a podcast on YouTube that was the number 2 source for news. So I'm just putting a little extra context in there. AK, floor is yours.
I mean, I'm really just gonna keep it brief. You know, like honestly, Democrats are weird. Fucking conservatives are weird. These guys are losers. Like niggas are just weird. Like 20, and honestly, $20 million. That's in the world we're living in, especially with knowing how much money goes around in politics. That's fucking
Trump change.
Indeed. RJ.
Okay. That's pretty pathetic. That's really pathetic. Let's just go ahead and call a spade a spade. Because here's the thing. For the longest, they expected the Democrats to just fall in line. You're going to vote straight. I'm a Democrat. Vote straight ticket. And that's, and they had no worth in that. Black folks are going to vote. They're going to be Democrats. They're going to vote Democrat. And that's how it's going to be. Now, this last election really showed, when it was before Kamala jumped in, we were called so many names because, you ain't black if you don't vote Democrat. And that came from a white man. That came from Joe Biden. Seriously. Then what else? We got called a host of different names, monoliths. Yeah, there we go. There's the other one. We're monolithic and this, that, and other, when we're really drastically different from that. What ended up happening is the respect of the black vote was taken away, we gave it away. We just became the quid pro quo Negro, and that's how it was. And they just kind of figured out, like, your vote's not important. We need to focus on Hispanic vote. We need to focus on LGBTQ issues. We need to focus. They had very narrow focus. So now they're trying to win over the world, and I'm not impressed by it. I'm not impressed by watching Maxine Waters looking like an old retired Avon salesman walk up to a door to get it shut in her face for political theater. That's all the Democrats are now. So I call myself lovingly a middle grounder. Do I agree with Trump? No, he's a sick, psychopathic son of a bitch. But there are topics that the Republican Party have that I agree with, not many. But as a core Democrat, you kind of get frustrated because they're doing nothing. It's like, wipe the slate clean. It's almost like we need to look at the Democratic Party as in we need to purge them before we worry about the Republicans. Because the two biggest words we need are term limits, and that's not going to happen. So by everybody just sitting on their hands, sitting on their ass, not voting, doing this, that, and the other, this is why we're here. I'm going to draw a little heat for this one. I'm still fuming over watching James Clyburn hold a white baby talking about these are our future. Maxine Waters talking about we need to defend these Hispanic people of this, that, and other. They lost all respect for us. So I can see why people said, I ain't voting. I did vote. We basically, as a Democrat, got brain dead Biden, which we all knew he was compromised. and people, I'm riding with Biden. We're riding with Biden, and we end up riding a train off a cliff. We end up getting what I call Vice President Giggles, Kamala Harris, too late into the fray when it didn't do us any good. It's almost like it was a hit job. Like, people go like, oh man, we love Barack. I like Barack from the sense of saying we got a black president, but when you break it down, he really didn't do a lot of shit for us. He really didn't. He pushed two agendas and we weren't either one of them. So now we're here. You get AOC, who, for her to talk down about gamers is classic when she was nothing more than a Hooters barmaid half of her life before getting into politics. So hypocrite there. And she was a strong force, big green deal. And all of a sudden they shut her up. You can't find her. She's crickets. And then you look at all these prominent Democrats who either just like, I'm just going to be quiet so I can keep getting voted into Congress or the Senate. And we keep getting these asses. And I hate to say it like that. I met Cory Booker. When he was dating Rosario Dawson. Me and my now wife met him. And he was comical. He literally was comical. I couldn't take him serious in how he delivers things. So everybody's saying, oh, the greatest thing they can say, well, he went ahead and he gave a filibuster speech. Great. So we know you can hold your bodily fluids and you can literally not take a crap for 25 hours. Mm-hmm. Congratulations. The Democrats are just the party.
Came out of his mouth.
Yeah, it's the party of stunts, political theater at its best, and that's why we're in this situation. I'm currently in California, and this is a joke. I'm like, we are so far from any political coming together that don't even worry about the Republican Party. We need to worry about our own shit because we gave it away. It was given away for pennies on the dollar, where it was more valuable to say, we got people like, there's a man named Charleston White said, I would rather be a slave than vote for a black woman or whatever color Kamala was, or whatever flavor of the week she was.
Yeah, he was wild for that.
So it's just like, man, you don't get me started. I do too much politics, but it's a mess. And unfortunately now, how do we navigate through this mess? Because they've now elected a president who told people pretty damn clearly, you won't have to worry about voting after this election.
I do want to call out. They went all in on the before we go back to TR, because I know you gonna say something. Trump won more than a third of the Latino vote, despite everything that the Dems were doing. So they didn't get the dividends they thought they were going to get. They had a bad strategy, including the isolation of men. But TR, go. I know you itching at the trigger finger. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I agree with most of what everyone's been saying. The Democrats spending this $20 million, it's just a scam. They're not going to spend $20 million to listen to men. They're not going to spend $20 million to, study men or try to get their insights. They try to tell us that Doug Pimp Him Imhoff was the, pinnacle of masculinity. They try to say, or Tim Walz. They try to say these two white men are one is who-ish, but they try to say these two men were the ones that black men, Latino men, and every other man should be following and should be listening to. So they got a way bigger problem, and spending this $20 million is just to line the pockets of everyone else involved. When 2028 comes here, I'm going to tell you right now, the candidates are going to be led by Kamala Harris. I think she might get back in the fray, but it'll either be a Jasmine Crockett or AOC. Any man in the Democratic Party is not going to get on the ticket. That's done. They're going to put another woman back on the ticket to go against JD Vance. I'm pretty sure JD Vance is going to get the ticket on the Republican side. And so they're going to run this thing again. And they know that black men, the black community, for the most part, they know they're already going to vote Democrat. So if they were going to use this $20 million, it's not going to be for black men or the black community. It's going to be for maybe the Latino community. Because I will say that was kind of surprising to see the majority of Latino men and then also women, following their men, even though the Democrats told Michelle Obama specifically told women not to follow their men to the voting polls to vote their own way or vote who they want, and they all voted
She
Republican.
said, "Don't even talk about it with your husbands. Just do it." She was literally trying to put a split in marriages.
Yeah, she said a lot of things. So I will say there were about 20 million votes that didn't show up to the polls that showed up for Biden back in 2020. So maybe there is an opportunity there. But as for like study men or whatever, this is just what they do just to line the pockets up for people in their party. That's all it is.
Indeed. We have one more topic, fellas. I appreciate y'all. Wait, did we get it? Yeah, ML went first or third. Did I miss anybody?
I thought
no, we got everybody.
Oh, okay.
Everybody. All right, we got one more